Hello, my name is Tokes. Welcome to our channel and this is Watered Seed Talks. Now our conversation for today is more of a question, and the question is for parents and even non-parents. Do you think that our children are being over-sexualized by the things that they watch on TV or perhaps the games that they play? Join us. Let's dive in. Okay, let's go straight in. Alright, so this is my experience. What I've noticed is while sitting with my children watching TV, I realised that the programs are split into 2 or 3 categories, and these are the most interesting programs. So I see the over-sexualised programs, which is telling our children that the only way to get far in life is to look pretty. The only way to get far in life is to wear expensive clothes. The only way to get far in life is to get the attraction of boys, and if we do that, or if they do that, then wow, they're great. Now the other part of the program is just completely violent and just aggressive anger, and these are the programs where someone hurts you, the first thing you want to do is retaliate. You fight, and most of those programs starts from fighting from the beginning straight to the end. The third one is what I would say almost like virtual kind of programs, unrealistic expectations. They're never going to happen in our lifetime, but it gives our children a good feel factor. And so when they finish watching those programs, you're left to pick up almost like the hangover of it, of the fact that, well, your life's never really going to be that perfect. And so my focus in this video really is the over-sexualized content part. And so I'm hoping that it gets you thinking. I mean, it makes you more aware of what your children are watching, and it perhaps helps you to decide how you want to choose to educate them. These are my views. I've done some research in regards to how much this is impacting our culture today, and just to read about reports that was discussed at parliamentary in regards to just over-sexualized content towards our children and what we need to do about it. So I will start with the part, especially for the girls, to understand exactly what we're talking about. So parents, I know that this has a bit of sexualized content in there, so if you want to watch the video first before sharing it with a daughter, that is fine. So this is my breakdown of this conversation. So I will start with why do we think that our kids have been over-sexualized, what you need to look out for when you think that your child has been over-sexualized, and how to help our children from being over-sexualized. So let me start with the why. Now my whys are very simplified. I'm just going to split them into really 2 things, or maybe 2.5 things. So girls, the first thing, or the first reason, or parents, the first reason why our children are constantly being over-sexualized is marketing. Is really just for money. So we know that if we market things, which means if we advertise things, how they should look, the fashion, the lifestyle, because they're at that stage of where they're growing, those things draw their attention. So really when I talk about advertising, it's for money. The reason why our children have been over-sexualized with content that are inappropriate for their age is for companies to make money. It's for them to make your mum buy you those products. And so you will find all of this content and advertising in everything that you watch, on child's program that you watch on TV, on YouTube. It's all over the place. I know that it seems simplistic, but the truth is that money rules the world. And so advertising companies will do whatever it takes, will do as much marketing to as much audience as possible to get us and to get your parents to purchase stuff and to continuously keep purchasing those things. That is number 1 as to the why. Number 2 is manipulation. So imagine that we are being shown or being taught that the only reason why we need to purchase something is because we desire it. Is because our emotions are tied to it. It is not tied to the fact that we actually need that product. It is not actually tied to the fact that we will benefit from that product, which is a fact of what we need. We will only impulsive buy things based on the fact that I feel like buying that. We have a lifelong of manipulation, which means that we are being constantly told to buy something just because of our emotions and our desires are triggered. My simplistic view is the 2 reasons why our children are being over-sexualized: for money and for long-term manipulation all through of our lives. We've just been told this is what we need to buy because it's been constantly advertised, and then we buy it. And that's what happens today. There's a new game, it's advertised in movies everywhere. You know, there's a new way to dress. They get some, you know, upcoming stars to dress that way. Our kids look at it and they're like, oh wow, I want to look exactly like that. And that is what they do. Is what you need to look out for in regards to when you feel like your child is being over sexualized. So number one for me, and what I've noticed, is that for those kids, they always feel like they want to look like a grown-up. They talk about stuff that relates to grown-up, or you know, or star that our kids are really in tune with or in love with. They would want to dress like those idols, those, you know, kid stars, or those shows that they watch. They want to look like that. And so if the people that our children are following on social media dress inappropriately, or they're adults themselves, our children will want to dress like adults. So, and it's not just about dressing about adults, it's about emphasis on specific parts of the body when we dress up. So it could be, you know, it could be any area. It could be wearing too tight fitting clothes, it could be revealing parts of our bodies that we don't really need to show at certain ages. Another thing is that when you feel like your child is discussing a lot about makeup, so when you have a 10-year-old or 11-year-old constantly telling you about makeup and telling you about a certain way that they would like to look, even nail varnish, in itself, all of these things are not too bad. But I believe that sometimes we 10, 11, 9-year-olds, even 6-year-olds will nail varnish these days, that you start to think that, you know what, it's not really a big deal. And it isn't really a big deal, but the point is, why should a child that age even need nail varnish? I think that is the question. So the question comes down to, when your child, or when our children start to emphasize on grown-up things to make them look a certain way, and we know what we're talking about when we say to make them look a certain way, is an over-sexualized image or something that they've seen that only brings attention to their bodies, to the way that they look in clothes. And so we really need to look out for that. Now, another thing that I've noticed is the fact that we've kind of moved away from how our bodies, which is the engine that drives us, how that we should power it with good food and all of this, you know, good nutrients to make it really healthy and be the best that it can, to I need my body to look a certain way. Because the reality and the facts and the knowledge and the education we should be giving our children is the fact that eating well helps your body to run well, helps your body to be rid of sickness, not what it will look like, not what our magazine says our body will look like. Because the truth is, you can eat really healthy, and in fact most people eat really healthy and still never look like what they have in magazines. So we need to re-educate our children. So when a child wants a finished product of what they want to look like, but don't understand to educate themselves on the process of eating well, that is another thing that you need to look out for. Also, another thing that we need to look out for is that when boys or girls tend to see the opposite sex as just boyfriend, husband material and never really friends, because in their mind they've been exposed to so much content that that is the only thing that is registering about the opposite sex. So again, we have to sit with them and just educate them in regards to what that means. We move to how can we help our children from being over-sexualized. So the first thing, as always, is an education. If we don't educate our kids are going to turn to alternative sources to find the information, and this could obviously be disastrous, which we don't want to happen. So the idea is to empower our children to understand and be independent of the threat to always look a certain way or to be a certain way. And believe me, they will fight you. This is no easy trick, because so they will fight you when you say to them that, you know, you don't have to look like that person, or you don't have to look like this pop star. But the idea is to empower them. So it's not to enforce it upon them. It's hopefully for them to see reason and to explain reason why they have to be their own person and not try to, you know, leech onto other people's culture or other people's beliefs just because of the way that of what they see on TV. So simplify. We need to educate our children. Number two is that we need to be aware as parents. We really need to be aware. So when we see that our daughters or our sons are dressing in a certain way that is too mature for their age, then we really need to be calling it out to them. We need to be discussing to understand what is going on. Sometimes it has nothing to do with that, but I think part of the conversation is to make sure that we're aware of what's going on. We're aware about how they look, why they're dressed in a certain way. We're mostly aware in regards to the content that they're exposed to, because the content makes a significant social environment influence on our children. Number 3 is consistency. So as a parent, we need to be consistent in our approach and what we're actually educating our kids about. Or we have two sides to this issue here. So we have parents telling our children that, you know, the need for decency and how they need to look, and understanding and explaining that being beautiful is not the only way in life. You know, there is also beauty in ability, in intellectual. And we're doing this as parents, and empathy and being kind to other people. But then we have the other side of what they want on TV, which is telling them that, you know, you don't have to be any of those things. You just have to be beautiful. You just have to be slick. You just have to be with the popular kids. And so there's a conflict in the messages that the children are getting. So we need to make sure our voice is louder than what they see, and it has to be consistent. We have to make sure that our voice is louder as a community, as parents. Number 4 is the fact that the peers matter. Yes, I know that we don't want our children to be under peer pressure, but as parents, we need to form a network with other parents who have exactly or similar values as us, and so that our children and their children can be friends. I know it seems like you're setting up friendship. I get it. Understand that the ethics and the values that you're asking them to abide to, there is also another friend, you know, not far from them, who's also abiding by those rules. And if we can, the overall conclusion to this video is that we come first when it comes to looking after our children. I know it's nice to be able to say that, you know, the policy makers and the advertising companies and all of this brand are really going to do the right thing and, you know, show content that really empower our children. But until then, we need to take the stand for our children. We need to take the stand to make sure that our children's self-perception, their identity, their self-awareness is not impacted by all of this advertising and all of this over-sexualized content that makes them think that all they are is just their bodies, and there is nothing in their ability, there is nothing in their intellectual capacity to be able to be better in society. So it is not possible to cover all the content all under this topic, but if parents out there can kind of do their own research and bespoke it to their children, and really to just create and make sure that our children are growing in their own pace, in our own pace, and they're not being influenced by the things that are inappropriate to them and for them, just in the name of money. I hope that you've enjoyed our video this week. We will see you in a fortnight, in 2 weeks time. So bye.